What is going on, guys? Miles here, and in this video we'll be taking a look at part 2 of Sledgehammer Games' huge announcement which was made a couple of days ago, where we'll be looking at all the other changes in the game. If you missed my part 1, I was basically talking about the Divisions overhaul, so you might want to watch that first before we get into this one. So let's get into all of these changes because there are a lot of them and it may take quite a while. So I'll probably go through these quite quickly and I won't talk about them too much, otherwise this video will just be like insanely long. So the first thing's LMG bipods and the sharper shooter bonus, which are currently bonuses for level 1 divisions, are now going to be an automatic feature on LMGs and snipers, no matter what division you're choosing. And I think this is a pretty good change overall. It was kind of annoying how if you used the sniper, you couldn't hold your breath unless you were using the mountain division, and I'm pretty happy to see this change. The other division bonuses, such as the bayonet for the assault rifles, the suppressors for SMGs, as well as the incendiary shells for the expeditionary, are now actually attachments which you can put on your weapon. And the best part about this change is that it's not going to affect your current loadout too much, because after this update you will be allowed to have 3 primary attachments for all loadouts in the game, which is kind of like permanent primed for all your loadouts, which I think is incredible. And it means if you want this incendiary shells attachment, you can still put it on your current class and you won't be at a disadvantage. And another amazing change coming in tomorrow's update is the return of Unlimited Sprint, which I am so excited for. I'm a huge fan of Unlimited Sprint and I was kind of sad to see it go in COD WW2, but I could understand why, because the maps were slightly smaller and a lot of the other older Call of Duties didn't have Unlimited Sprint, so maybe they wanted that older COD sort of feeling with World War II, but I'm not going to complain seeing Unlimited Sprint return. To account for Unlimited Sprint, they are going to reduce the movement speed a little bit, which I think is fair enough. It's only going to go from 1.4 times to 1.3 times, so less than a 10% decrease in your speed, and I think it'll be pretty difficult to notice, to be honest. You will now be allowed 1 lethal and 1 tactical equipment, which I think is great once again. I'm not sure why they only allowed you to have 1 in the first place. That did kind of confuse me, but I'm not going to complain seeing both a lethal and a tactical equipment in my loadouts, but it could be quite annoying in games like Domination and War, where there's going to be a lot of grenade spam. Launchers can now be equipped for all loadouts without the basic training, which I think is great, because I never really used launchers because I didn't want to sacrifice a basic training just to have a launcher, so I think I might actually use them now. And there is a rifle grenade attachment available for all rifles now, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'm pretty sure that is just the noob tube for rifles, hoping it's not too powerful. Suppressors are going to be a new attachment available for all pistols in the game, which I think is kind of cool. And the pistol suppressor has a 15% range reduction, whereas the submachine gun suppressor has a 30% range reduction, so it's pretty cool to see the stats with those attachments. The basic trainings, primed and bang, are going to be removed from the game, which is understandable because I mentioned earlier you now automatically kind of get these basic trainings, so it's kind of obvious that they would remove these, to be honest, and if you did spend your prestige tokens on these, they will be refunded. There are 2 new basic trainings coming into the game. One's called Blitzkrieg and one is called Clandestine. For Blitzkrieg, it says streaks are now earned by kills instead of score, which sounds pretty interesting, and along with this, streaks are improved and you can select a 4th kill streak, but I don't know exactly how many kills you need for each streak, and I'm not sure exactly how much more powerful they're going to be, so I can't really comment on how powerful this basic training will actually be. And for Clandestine, slain enemies now drop intel packs that reveal nearby hostiles, and you get an intel ping at the start of each life, so that one sounds pretty cool as well. Because launchers are now available to select without the basic training, they have been slightly nerfed a bit against players, but not against score streaks, so the Panzerschreck now has nerfed damage and projectile speed, whereas the bazooka has a buffed radius, a buffed projectile speed, but nerfed damage, and this should make the bazooka better at killing streaks than the Panzerschreck, and I guess the Panzerschreck will be slightly better against players. The damage for frag and sticky grenades has been nerfed by only about 10% to account for the additional tactical equipment which you can now use, which is understandable, and hopefully this won't mean there's a ton of grenade spam in certain game modes. Along with this, shell shock and earthquake effects from lethal equipment has been reduced as well, which I think is great because I do feel like there's a lot of screen shake in this game, and honestly it can get really hard to play on certain maps like Shipment 1944. Timings for tactical grenades have been slightly adjusted as well. If you don't use the Expeditionary Division, they've all been reduced a little bit. Smokes now only last for 10 seconds, where previously they lasted for 14. And signal flares now only last for 3.5 seconds, where they previously lasted only for 5 seconds. Stun effects now only last between 1.75 and 3.5 seconds, where previously they only lasted for 2 to 4 seconds. And tab and gas deals 1 damage every 1 second 5 times, where previously it was 10 damage every second 5 times. And honestly, I have never used this tactical equipment, I barely knew it was in the game, but 1 damage every 1 second sounds fairly useless to me, so not sure what's going on there, to be honest. And if you're using the Expeditionary Division, all of these timings are slightly higher. Moving on to a few of the basic trainings which have had their benefits changed. So the first one, for the energetic basic training, the sprint again sooner feature has been removed, and now you get increased sprint speed, probably to match the current sprint speed in the game after it gets nerfed tomorrow. For the forage basic training, the swap weapons faster has been removed and you now get extra magazines. For the ordnance basic training, you can't re-roll your care packages anymore, but now killed enemies drop streak packs that fill your meter. Not sure exactly how that's going to work out, but for the launch basic training, you now get additional launcher ammunition instead of actually getting a launcher, because you can obviously use one anyway. The concussed basic training now allows you to take 2 pieces of lethal and tactical equipment, which sounds insanely OP. And the instinct basic training makes you immune to shell shock and tactical equipment, which also sounds very good. So they are all of the basic trainings. Let's move on to incendiary shells, which have been buffed a little bit. You now get additional shells for each shotgun, so you get 8 for all shotguns aside from the combat shotgun, which only gets 7 of them for some reason, I don't know exactly. The range reduction has been buffed from -10% from -15%, which I didn't know was actually a thing, so today I learned, I guess. And they sped up the loading of shells for the combat shotgun. The M30 rifle bullet attachment has been buffed, as you now get 8 bullets instead of 6. The LMG bipod has been buffed because now while it's mounted, you get a 9% increase in fire rate, which is the equivalent of rapid fire, and that actually stacks, so you can get some pretty insane fire rate if you do use this bipod with rapid fire. And I think it's going to make the bipod a lot more viable to use now, because I never really used it before. And also, whilst you have your LMG mounted, it actually fires from the reserve ammunition, and when that's exhausted it then fires from the current clip. So I think this bipod is actually going to be insanely powerful now, but the problem is you can't move while shooting. And that will be still a pretty big drawback. The sniper sharpshooter has been buffed as well. The duration is now 10 seconds rather than 4 seconds, which promotes using snipers in the quote-unquote proper way rather than quick scoping. They buffed the armored division, as there is now an 80% reduction from fire and explosive damage, which was previously only 65%. And the reduced idle sway now affects snipers, as you would expect, but it is only 30% compared to 65% for other weapons in the game. But this does actually stack with the ballistic calibration attachment. And finally, the moving faster whilst aiming from the infantry division has been buffed slightly as well, but the separation between classes does remain, which means snipers are the slowest and pistols are still the fastest. LMG's got their ADS firing speed buffed because it was very slow previously, even with the infantry bonus. Snipers got a smaller buff than other weapon classes since it isn't really beneficial to move very fast, and pistols and shotguns already equaled on non-ADS speed with infantry, so they weren't adjusted. But there we have it, they are all of the changes which are going to be made to COD WWII in the update coming tomorrow. My voice is basically dead, that did take quite a while to record, but there's a lot of changes and I wanted you guys to know about them before the update rolls around. so you can kind of prepare in a way and get ahead of everyone else. But let me know what you think of all of these changes down in the comments below. Which one is your favourite? And if you guys found the video useful, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Call of Duty. But I'll see you guys in another video.